We have Bill McMorris. He is a writer with the Washington Free Beacon, and the Washington Free Beacon usually tells it like it is. And we want to talk to him a little bit about what happened in Baltimore yesterday and the collusion that is going on. Bill, can you talk to me just a little bit about the Bloods, the Crips, the Nation of Islam, and SEIU's role in any of this?
Well, thanks for having me on, Glenn. What's great to see is we finally have been able to figure out a way to unite the Bloods and the Crips after about 30 years of bloodshed. And that is to direct their attention specifically towards an institution, and in this case, a city. And if we can unite them in burning down a city, they'll stop killing each other. So it was eye-opening yesterday watching this go down.
Tell me how, when you see this and then you hear the mayor, when you hear, there was an interview I saw on CNN yesterday with a guy walking down the street. He was a preacher, and he said, you know what, we prayed with everybody, and you know, even the Crips and the Bloods, and they were there with us, and they've really provided a lot of help. And the mayor saying that about the Nation of Islam. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, it's nothing different than we've seen in other inner city political machines. You saw this in New York, where Al Sharpton was able to gain so much respect. You saw this in cities like Chicago, where Mr. Farrakhan was able to garner so much respect. You see this in inner city politics all the time, where these political actors band together with, in some cases, extortionists and with hustlers and people who prey off of animus and division. And they use that to mobilize votes. And that's when it suits their purposes, but sometimes it backfires, as we saw yesterday. And you end up seeing these same people burn down your entire city with the space that you said that you provided them yourself.
Tell me what you do know about the death of Mr. Gray. Tell me what you do know about why don't we know? I mean, this story, a city is being burned to the ground. And we don't really know that much about this.
We definitely don't know that much about it. We have the video, which is, of course, shocking and disturbing and very, very tragic. We have the video of a young man screaming, basically hanging limp and being taken in by bicycle cops. We don't know what happened after that. And the police department has said repeatedly that it intends to look into this, but they have not been as forthcoming with those details. And you have to think that that is because they're trying to be as thorough as possible. And if you want an investigation to be concluded in a timely manner, if you want justice in a timely manner, well, the last thing you should be doing is burning down your entire city. This is going to set back the police investigation, in my mind, if only because now these police officers, instead of having detectives tracking down, finding witnesses, retracing the steps that this young man took between his arrest and his untimely death in the hospital, we're going to have police officers dedicated to bringing their city back under control and trying to clean up a war zone. And I think that's the saddest part about what we saw yesterday, is it's going to end up delaying justice for this young man.
One last question. Any idea why the mayor did not put a curfew on last night?
Well, what was so funny to see is media coming out and criticizing the mayor for allowing businesses like the CVS to be burned to the ground. If anything, I think she was taking the recommendations that so many in the press were making about what happened with Ferguson. In Ferguson, the mayor came under fire, the police came under fire for being over-militarized. They came under fire for having too much of a presence. And I think what the mayor in this case was trying to do was to take a hands-off, laissez-faire approach to law enforcement, with the thought that as long as the police are not interfering with these protests, that they would remain peaceful. And instead, what we saw was a complete disappearance of order.
Because these are not real.
What we're seeing is...
Go ahead.
Yeah, of course, what we saw was a bunch of bad actors hijack what ostensibly was a good movement. And what was so funny is in Ferguson, we saw the same exact thing happen. And everyone looked for scapegoats, except for the rioters themselves and the institutions that brought them to bear on that city.
All right.
And I think what we saw with Baltimore was the actual, we actually saw the media's preferred policies put into practice with disastrous results.
Well, Bill, thank you very much for your insight here. I will tell you this, the reason why we saw what we saw is because this is not a real protest. This is never a real protest. This has been organized by the typical suspects, the typical people that we have seen over and over and over again, all bad actors with bad intent. How could I possibly say that? Oh, I don't know. The leadership, the Bloods, the Crips, SEIU, and the Nation of Islam.